So hi, I'm Danillo Alvarenga. I work here at Volt as an assistant professor. I'm a biologist and I got my master's and my doctorate from the University of São Paulo in Brazil. And I have been working here for 5 years now. So I work basically with microbial ecology and I'm specialized in cyanobacteria, which are microbes that can do photosynthesis, meaning they take energy from the sun and then they transform it into chemical energy in the form of sugars. And some cyanobacteria, they can also take nitrogen from the air and use it to produce ammonia, which some organisms can then use to produce amino acids, which are the building blocks of proteins. And very few organisms can do that. That's a process called nitrogen fixation. So what I'm interested in is understanding the diversity and ecological role of cyanobacteria in different ecosystems, and as well as how they are affected by climate change and how they interact with other organisms. So because cyanobacteria can do nitrogen fixation, they establish symbiotic associations with several organisms, especially plants, because plants are not capable of doing nitrogen fixation. This type of symbiosis is extremely important, especially for plants like mosses, which do not have any roots, so they cannot take water and nutrients from soil. They completely depend on what comes from above, like from rainwater, for example, and also with their symbiotic partnerships with microbes like cyanobacteria. So because mosses don't have any roots, it might seem that they are at a disadvantage in comparison to other plants, but despite of that, they are extremely successful in colonizing several different environments, especially in northern ecosystems like boreal forests, Arctic tundra, and peatlands. In some cases, they basically take over the whole ground, and that they end up becoming extremely important for introducing carbon into those ecosystems, and through their symbiosis with nitrogen fixing bacteria, also introducing lots of nitrogen. So they are extremely important for the ecology of these ecosystems. And when mosses and cyanobacteria introduce carbon and nitrogen into these ecosystems, they end up also helping other organisms to get the nutrients they need for growing and for doing their regular activities. Okay, so if cyanobacteria can do photosynthesis and also fix nitrogen, then why do they associate with plants? So photosynthesis is actually a very costly metabolism in terms of energy. So it takes up a lot of energy to do this process. So it's more advantageous for the cyanobacteria to get those sugars that they need from another organism while they concentrate just on the nitrogen fixation, which is also very costly. So usually when cyanobacteria and plants establish these associations, the cyanobacteria exchange nutrients with the plant. But of course, this depends a lot on the environmental conditions. Sometimes the environment doesn't favor this symbiosis, even though they could be advantages for both of them. Also, how this symbiosis starts, it's not so clear yet. We know that plants, when they need nitrogen, they release chemicals into the environment that basically manipulate the cyanobacteria that are living around them to recruit them as symbionts and make them fix nitrogen for the plant. But we don't know what those chemicals are exactly, or how that is affected by the environment. So basically I'm investigating how cyanobacteria and plants interact, how different environmental factors affect nitrogen fixation in these associations, and how they are going to be affected by climate change as well. So to study these associations, what I usually do is I go to some place in nature Then I take moss samples, and then I bring them back to the lab, and I place them inside bottles that have a liquid that we call culture media. And this medium has nutrients that stimulate the growth of cyanobacteria that live on the muscles. And I incubate them then for some weeks. And after some time, we can start seeing, in the cases that are successful, we can start seeing some blue-green dots growing on the moss or on the medium. And that's the cyanobacterial colony. So then I take the colony and I transfer to a new bottle with a fresh culture medium, and then I incubate it again until we have a growing cyanobacterial culture, kind of like this. Then I also take the moss and then I wash it with different solutions to clean it, to get rid of the cyanobacteria. So then I end up with cyanobacteria living without the moss and the moss without the cyanobacteria. Then I bring them back to the lab and I put them back together and I compare when they are alone and when they are together, what's happening there in terms of how their contact affects nitrogen fixation using a technique that we call gas chromatography, and also how their genes are affected by contact, or which genes are activated when they are together, using techniques called genomics and transcriptomics. And I also expose them to different conditions to know how different temperatures, different light intensities, salinity, how that also affects their activity. And then what that does is it generates a huge amount of data that then I take to a computer and I analyze it using different programs and different methods. And with that, I can understand how the conditions affected cyanobacteria and moss, individually and when they're together. So most days I'm at my computer analyzing data. I also have a nice collection of cyanobacteria, as you just saw, that I have to take care of once in a while in the lab. And that takes a lot of work. Sometimes I also go on field work. Usually we go to Sweden, but I've also been to Costa Rica, and we also do some field work here in Denmark once in a while. So now we know that cyanobacteria have had a really important role in the evolution of life on the planet. Before cyanobacteria, there was no oxygen in the atmosphere. They were the ones who oxygenated the atmosphere. And they also participated in the origin of plants, because we also know now that the structures inside plants that are responsible for doing photosynthesis, which we call chloroplasts, we have found out that they are also a type of symbiotic cyanobacterium. And today as well, they are extremely important for the ecology of different environments, and they establish symbiosis with not just plants, but several different organisms. So what I think is most interesting about this line of work is that we really understand how tiny microbes really can have an effect on not just a whole ecosystem, but also the global climate. And this also shows how interconnected the different organisms are, because under some conditions they really depend on each other for their survival. Thanks for watching the video, and if you would like to learn more about the research at Volt, feel free to check out the channel and the other videos.